Oh, hello. How are you doing? Yeah, you remember us, don't you? With the Airing It Out podcast. That podcast that encourages healthier, happier lives. We're trying to raise the conversations on the conversations we're not having and talking about mental health and giving people the voice to share their real stories. Yeah? No? And look, we know it's been a while. I more than anyone am all too conscious of how long it has been, and I know that time between our last episode and now has, at least in my case, been filled with questions of, am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? Pressures and sometimes doubts. But I never doubted that we would be back. We're coming back into phase 2. We're going to make things bigger and better. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, where have we been? What have we been doing? But firstly, Ben's my new producer. How many days has it been since the last episode?
Last episode was on the 17th of April, and that was 206 days ago, Sam.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is the second time we're filming this episode, so that time difference is even bigger still than it was before. But you know what? We are here. We are doing it, albeit doing it again. And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going because we've got a mission and we believe in that. So back to it. Where's the pod been? Like, what has the podcast been doing? So, as you might have guessed, I've got a new producer. So I'm not working with the guys that I was beforehand. Common Bird and I reached a mutual agreement where it was best for us to part ways. They were too busy and there was too much going on my end, and we weren't able to quite meet each other's needs. So we took time away from each other, and I used this time to try and take the Airing It Out podcast to the next level. I'm serious about it, so I wanted to take it to its next stage of its evolution, and I call that phase 2. So in that time between now and parting ways with Common Bird, what I've been doing is I've been trying to get the business side of things going and bringing legitimacy to the Airing It Out podcast so that when we do take it into its next stage, we're not going to run into any trouble and we're all set up and ready to go so that we don't have to put out fires as they arise. I will be completely honest with you, I've not set up a business before, and where I was doing this for the most part on my own, I will say Dave Corbin has been fantastic. So Dave, if you're listening to this, thank you for all of your help. But I found a lot of that side of things a bit overwhelming. There was a lot to do in order to take it to what I regard as its infancy, those first 20 episodes, to its more mature stage where we can broaden our horizons as to what we can do as a podcast and what we can do beyond it being a podcast. So there was a lot for me to do, and I found it difficult to do by myself. So that took time, and something that was looming over my head the entire time of that was starting production again. I wanted to do it by myself and be self-sufficient so that I wouldn't have to rely on anybody in order to do the work and see that my mission gets done. But that requires a lot of money. I looked at grants and things so I could see if I could get funding, but again, that was another thing to add to the list of things to do, and you're looking at about 6 or 7 grand to be completely self-sufficient, and I don't have that money, and grants take time. So a valuable lesson that I've learned is your network is your net worth. So I looked instead to people who knew what they were doing, who could support me. I reached out. That's not always something that I'm good at. So I've got Ben here. Ben has always been solid. He's very good with his production. He's a very good producer, as well as a cinematographer. I mean, look at this, huh? Look at this lovely box that you're looking at me from. Or, if not seeing me, then, hey, sound pretty good too, huh? But that's where we are now. We've got a few episodes in the bank. We're coming back. We're doing everything bigger and better. where appropriate. We're going to be doing lots of experimenting and trying new things and throwing a whole sewage plant's worth of shit at a wall and running with what sticks. So if there's anything that works, let us know. If there's anything that you think could do with a bit less of that, or any feedback you got, please just let us know. We'll take everything on board, and we want you guys to be a part of this. But we'll talk more about that later. A recap for me. What have I been doing? Around the time... So I lost the job that I was in at a production company. I got laid off and I was unemployed for a time. And that time was difficult because that was the time when I was like, right, okay, podcast, let's go, let's make this happen. But I was spending an awful lot of time at home, and that wasn't good for my mental health. I have a tendency to not be neurotic in a sense, but I think an awful lot. So I've been trying to strike a balance between thinking too much and trying to feel a little bit more, particularly recently. But I realised that too much time on my own is not good for my mental health. So I went and got a job, however that's now become the complete opposite. I work 40 to 50 hours a week, on top of trying to get the podcast back up from what was a point of nothing. Do my fire service work for the development. I was working towards putting a lot of time and effort into a recruitment that they were doing. I wasn't successful, but that's neither here nor there. I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm trying to balance a relationship and also doing this support group that I've been doing. So I had an awful lot on. I went from not having much to having too much. So whereas before it wasn't good for my mental health, where I was too much time with myself, the past 3 or 4 months that I've been working hasn't been good for my mental health because I've not had any time for myself, and it's been really challenging, very challenging. I don't want to say that it's been the hardest time for whenever, because I'm trying not to compare. I know that I've said on the podcast towards the start of the year that the previous 2 months had been the hardest since blah, 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 blah. But I don't want to do that, because I think if I say, oh, it's been the hardest time every time, then it kind of loses the impact of saying that it's been the hardest time. So I'll just settle for, it's been really fucking difficult. And it's made me stop and think about what I can do to make positive changes, or to at least alleviate some of that pressure that's on my back, and give myself a bit of time to rest and time to just be myself. And that's roughly where I'm at now. But I'll talk to you a little bit about that later, and some of the things which have helped me since my mental health has taken a bit of a dive. But until then, let's carry on. I had a wonderful chat with Dave Corbin, fantastic guy, big friend of the podcast. He introduced me to a gentleman called Robert Gerbka, who is a psychological therapist, mindfulness trainer, and a published author. I'd love to interview him. He has spent a number of years up in a Buddhist temple in another country, and I just want to pick his brain about that. One of the things that he said to me, which really resonated with me in the time of trying to make the podcast self-sufficient, was honour the universe and yourself by letting it unfold. And I know that can seem a bit wordy or difficult to grasp, but what I took from that is that you can't force this. You have to, if you know that it's right and you believe in it, then forcing it would only turn it into something which isn't quite right and isn't meant to be. I never wanted to put out content for the sakes of putting out content. Having regained the podcast in my own hands, it was then mine, having legitimised it and put it under my name, that then became very sacred to me. I didn't want to put something out for the sakes of putting something out, because I had this pressure or expectation that I was putting on myself. So it has taken time, and however difficult it has been, for me, and having that constant pressure over those 200 and something days, this is the right time. This time that we're in now, because I haven't forced things. It feels right. This setup feels right. It has taken time. It feels like I'm working with the right person. And I'm at a place now where I think I can do it. We've had numerous instances over the past few weeks where Ben and I have planned and scheduled to record, but I've said to him, and I still feel bad about it because it was at the 11th hour, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not up for it. I can't do it. I don't have enough of myself to give. And that has been really difficult, because where on the grander scale we have been closer to the right time, right there on the cusp of it, and it's still not been right. So here we are today, at the right place, at the right time, with the right people. The Airing It Out podcast is back, and expect to see a little bit more of us. So I did a podcast masterclass, and one of the statistics that the guy that was hosting it raised was 90% of podcasts are dead by their 20th episode, and only 1% make it past to the 21st. So this entire time, there's 200, how many was it, Ben?
206. 206.
Every single day in those 206 days, we were sat on the 20th episode, and it was so present in my mind that I didn't want to be a part of that statistic. I could not be a part of that statistic because, it just would have felt like I let myself down. And I don't want to say I'd have failed myself, because that feels a bit harsh, but it's something that I believe in. To let it fall by the wayside and get lost to whatever. I just thought that was an interesting statistic. So here we are, creating the 21st episode. Thank jolly fuck for that. And we've got a few more in the bank just to rub it in the nose of the statistics. Right. So I mentioned a while ago. I need my notepad for this. Righty-ho. So I mentioned a while ago that I wanted to talk about some of the things which have really been helping me recently. In the previous return episode that we recorded, I went into depth about where I've been, what I've been doing, and although that stuff is still valid, I don't feel as though it's as pertinent as what I've got now and what I wanted to talk about now, because I could give you a recap on however long it's been, but I think it coincides more with the podcast if I talk about this. So it's been about 3 or 4 months, and my mental health has been on a steady decline. As I mentioned, don't have any time. I'm giving too much of myself, and work is arduous, hard work. It's labouring, so I've been close to burnout, particularly the past few weeks, and I've been feeling it coming ever since I started this work. So during this difficult time of a steady decline, these are the things which have helped see me through it and have helped me work towards being in a better place. The first one are what are my wants and what are my needs. This is something that I spoke about with someone. I've become conscious in this past year of the way that we speak to ourselves. So I would often say, I need to do this, I've got this that I need to do. When in actual fact, many of those things were the things that I wanted to do, that I was just putting myself under unnecessary pressure to do so. So it's replacing that expectation and pressure of saying need with I want to do those things, because that comes from a place of personal incentive and motivation rather than external pressure. But what it was this time was identifying what my needs actually are. So it's all well and good knowing how to address those things, but what are the things that I need? That's not something I've ever thought about before. I took a look at the elements of my life, and so many of them were things that I wanted to do, but those aren't things that are going to blow up in my face if I don't ever do them. You know, it probably won't be quite as bad as I think it might be. And addressing those needs are highlighting and identifying the things that I can't do without, the things that are really important to me, and the bases that I need to cover in order to be myself, in order to feel like myself, and to be happy and healthy. So that has been very valuable. Something else that I've been doing is I caught it on a podcast, a Theo Von podcast. He's a comedian, but he's very human and has a lot of really nice insights. Something he said to someone that I've mentioned on the show before, but that might be the next episode. He interviewed Dr. Gabor Mate, and something that he said is that recently he's been asking himself, how does that make me feel? And that's just, kind of touching base with your emotions. So if you read a profound quote or something in a book, you listen to a piece of music, you see the way the wind blows the trees on a particular day, and just touch base with yourself and say, okay, how does that make me feel? What emotions does that make me feel? And my mum once said to me, underneath all that stone, you've got a big heart. And I just thought that was funny, but it's kind of passing through all that stone. It's going a little bit deeper, scratching a bit deeper than the surface, scratching a little deeper than scratching beneath the surface, fuck me, and seeing what's underneath. Where I'm such a mentally cognizant, I'm going to use that word, pretending I know what it means, but we're going to take a stab at it. Where I'm very brain dominated. So touching base with those emotions, forgetting what I think and asking myself, how do I feel, has helped me be a little bit more comfortable in my skin and a little bit more familiar with my emotions. And that's just been amazing because, I'm starting to feel a bit more. This one, obvious. I could tell myself this every day, and I could tell you this every day, and you'll say, yeah, obviously. But when it comes to practice, it can be a lot harder, particularly when you're not doing so well. Talking. Oh my God, I know. Obviously. But when you're there in the thick of it, it's hard. Particularly where a big part of it has been had the shadow of my illness. I thought to myself one day on the drill night at the station, it's easier not to talk. And that's resonated with me, and it stuck with me, because why? Why is that? Because it's easier to enclose within yourself and shut yourself off from the world, and I found myself craving isolation a lot, but no matter how much I wanted that, no matter how much that desire to be alone, to reside within that dark kind of almost comfortable place within myself, away from harm, away from the outside world, is, no matter how appealing and how strong that draw is, I know that's not the right answer. I've got to fight against that. And it can be so simple, but at times so difficult. So the way that I've been talking is taking a little bit of time and effort to explain a little bit more about how your day's been. We're typical British people. How's your day been? Yeah, it's been all right. Yeah, it's been all right. Yeah, it's a bit good. Okay, give me a little bit more than that. Tell me how it was. Tell me something funny. Tell me something interesting. Tell me something that you learned. And for me, it's about giving that information to other people, or at least more so than just the standard typical answers. I've got to give more than a few words. Call people up. The people that will pick up the phone are the people that care and that people want to be there for you. Trying to talk a little bit more. There are times particularly when I'm not doing so well, that I feel like a bit of an imposter, particularly when I'm doing this. Because I get like that and I think, who the fuck am I to be talking about and sharing these things? But, it's something that anyone can be doing. But that's not how it is. I'm doing this, and I'm choosing to do this, and I believe to do this. So, fuck the doubts. Fuck how I think. when I'm feeling like that, because that's not a true reflection of who I am or what I'm doing. So talk a little bit more. Something that has just been a positive exercise is seeing the good and reflecting on the good in others. It just makes you feel better about yourself, and it makes you feel better about the people that you're surrounded by. It gets you out of your head and makes you think, that person that I've just seen and that person that I will likely see again, they're pretty neat. They're good stuff. I like them. They're good shit. And just reflect on why. Ben is reliable. He's taken a big turn, and I'm really proud of what he's doing for himself. I'm grateful that he's willing to help me out at the moment. You know, we're pretty grassroots, so he's taken time out of his day and he's given me that effort, and yeah, he's a positive influence on my life and has a big positive impact. Okay. So the last one that I wanted to share with you is respecting your time and energy. This one has been particularly relevant to me, where my time and energy have been a finite resource. Being a little bit careful of how you spend those while you've got it has been, because it's like a small window of investment what you do with that time. So many evenings it gets to, and I've got like an hour to myself before I go to bed, and like, what do I do with it? And I've had so many wasted evenings, like playing a little bit of Xbox or watching a bit of TV and getting bored, and it's just been a bit of a waste. But it's learning to treasure that time and use it. How can you best use that? Whether it be taking a bath or having a read or winding down before bed. Instead of just giving it away and wasting it, think a little bit more about what you can do with it. But also in terms of the people that you're surrounded by. So something that I've been trying to be a little bit more conscious of is I'm a giver. I like to give. That's one of my love languages, is to do more than what is expected. Whether that be showing up for something with things or putting on a big effort, but not everyone's going to match that, and you can't expect people to match that. I mean, I don't expect people to match that, but it's when people don't kind of match the minimum. So if someone's not giving you the baseline of what you need out of a relationship, if someone's taking advantage of that relationship, and they're just not being a good friend or a good person to you, then you might have to give that person a little bit less stock, not put quite so much credence into that person, and lower that bar of expectation. Typically, I found that the lower your expectations are, the better. But sometimes it's difficult with friends, because you know this person, you spend a lot of time with this person, you like this person. That's why you hang out with them. But they're not always going to be able to deliver. Where my bar for what I give is quite high. That's my own thing. When someone doesn't meet it, it hurts. Or it doesn't meet, their bar is low, it hurts quite a lot. Particularly when I make such an effort, and I've been struggling because the efforts that I've made haven't been met with appreciation or gratitude, or just some kind of small recognition, and that's been difficult because I put a lot of time and I put a lot of effort into making these things work and making them fun, making them enjoyable, it's difficult when that gets taken for granted. So what I've been doing is, if someone's choice is to meet my choices and decisions in such a way, I might have to reevaluate some things. I might have to take a second look and instead not measure you as the sentimental and emotional connection that I have to you as a person, but determine you as an individual more based off of your actions. And that's been good, because what that has meant, although that might sound a little bit callous, what that's meant is I'm not withholding, but I am not laying on the line my emotions and my feelings for them to be walked over. It means that I'm holding back how I feel and taking a second and just, thinking about how much I should give to this. How much, based off of what I know of them of recent times, should I give? I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to be let down. So remeasuring what I give, respecting my time and my energy, and sometimes saving it for myself has been very valuable. Cheers. You deserve to be appreciated, and you deserve to be valued as an individual and a friend. So, as we have mentioned, we are moving into phase 2 of the Airing It Out podcast, but what exactly does that mean? Or, as I like to think of it, what have you got to look forward to? We mentioned we're going to be doing lots of different experiments. These are going to be with the styles and the mediums that we're doing. So we want to do longer form essay style content, and also shorter, more digestible kind of list content, just nice and quick, nice and easy, but also the longer, deeper stuff. We're going to have more guests on, but we want different styles of guests. So while we also want to interview real people, we always want to interview real people, getting those real perspectives. We also want to look at professional insights. I'd love to interview a train driver, what kind of things that they deal with on the front lines of trains. No one's ever happy with train drivers, and they deal with some pretty horrible stuff. But in addition to that, I also want to go into retirement homes and gain perspectives and insights from people who have lived a life and have now a wealth of wisdom to draw from. To contrast that, I also want to go into primary schools and speak to children who are on the complete opposite, who have such a beautiful perspective of life, having only been here for a very short amount of time, and it's just so uplifting. So those are the different things that you can expect with the Airing It Out podcast, going out there and meeting real people. You're also going to be able to find us on anywhere that you find your podcasts, whether that be video or audio. And if you have a particularly niche one, or one that doesn't reside within the top names, let us know and we'll get it on there. We don't want to withhold the Airing It Out podcast from you. So one of the big things of phase 2 on the creative end is going to be engagement. We want to get you guys involved with what we're doing, and one of the main ways that we're going to do that is through surveys. So you're going to be able to find a link on our website which will take you to somewhere where you can answer a few questions of your own choice, and they can be such things as the small things that you enjoy in life, your struggle in a sentence, how you've been this week, the little insights, anonymous insights I might add, into your life that kind of bring a grounded human dimension to the Airing It Out podcast that we ourselves alone cannot achieve. And I know that other podcasts have done this before, and it's not that I'm taking it from them, but I'm trying to create a different, bring a new element to the podcast. Ultimately, I want to create a community, somewhere that people can feel safe and that they can come and have their voice shared and encouraged, and also be listened to. And one of the ways we can do that is by giving you the platform to share your perspectives, insights, and what your voice is. But we can't do that alone. We can't do that by ourselves. We can't write in every week and pretend that it's us. But we know that the hardest thing to do is to take that first step, particularly when no one else is doing it. I'm one of the captains for Talk Club in our local area, and something that we recognised is that the hardest part for anybody, it's a men's talk club, the hardest part for any of these men is taking that first step. It's walking through that door and sitting down for that first meeting. But such as it is for many things in life, I've talked about going into a martial arts gym. It's fucking daunting, it's unknown, and it's scary. Like, why would you do that? So sometimes the easier, safer choice is to just, nope, not doing it. But if we want to make that difference, and if we want to provide people with somewhere that they can feel safe and that they can feel that their experiences and emotions and how they feel are valid, and have somewhere that they can be listened to and shared, then that's something that we're going to need your help with. So we know that it's scary. And we want the Airing It Out podcast to be somewhere that people can look to and realise that their voice matters, that you deserve to be heard and listened to, and encourage you and others around you to share and listen in kind. So in that regard, we need your help. So while we live in a society that celebrates individuality, let's not lose sight of just how important it is that we're surrounded by people who can care for us and support us, just as we try and care for those and support people around us. In times of my personal struggle, something that my dad has always said is, only you can do this, but you cannot do this alone. And the ultimate goal of bringing this new dimension to the podcast is that we want to create somewhere for people to realise that they don't have to live in suffering, that they're not the only person that feels that way, and that there is light to be found in the darkness, and that despite our individuality, something I will advocate for, the one commonality that we all share, regardless of who you are and all the labels that you have attached to yourself, we're all human. So we can't do this part alone, and we need your help. So please, when these things go live, when this website goes live, get in touch, contribute to the conversation, and be a part of it. You won't believe how much joy it will bring me to see that it's people listening, and that those people actually want to engage and be a part of it. I would like to share them on the podcast. You know, what would be the point if they weren't? They would be anonymous, of course. But yeah, I know myself that knowing that somebody else out there feels the same way that I do, that brings me comfort and strength, knowing that I'm not the only one. And I want to do that for other people. So I can sit here all day long and talk until the cows come home and have production meetings and build everything up so we have episode. But it won't be the same if you guys aren't a part of this with us. So we need your help, and we're asking for your help. So please come and take part and be a part of this as it grows into something that hopefully is a force for good. Before we leave today, I wanted to say a couple thank yous. I wanted to say thank you to Ben, Dave, and Flo. You have all, in your own ways, encouraged me and helped me along to get us to where we are today, so thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to everybody that has asked in the absence of the podcast. I know it may not sound like much or much of a big deal, but that has shown me that people are listening and that people are engaging and that people that are outside my immediate circle. I'm like, oh, okay, this has actually been seen by people and people are engaging, so much so that they want to know where it's at and they might want to see more. So that has helped. That has given me reassurance that it's doing something and it's not doing nothing. So thank you. I'm very grateful. So until the time of the next episode, thank you for joining us and thank you for making it to the end of the episode. It's always a bit funny coming back and starting afresh because it's very bumpy and very rocky. We looked at the last episode, or I looked at the first return episode and I thought, bloody hell, right, need to give that one another pop. Thank you for being here and hope you're taking care of yourself and go easy. We'll see you next time.